Today we're doing a talent tree review from the warrior career from Star Wars Force and Destiny. Alright, the Shii Cho Knight. Shii Cho is the final lightsaber form, well, as far as us talking about it. Actually, that's not true. The warrior source book, I believe, has another, the elusive seventh lightsaber form. Juyo or Vapad or both, or it's the same thing, but it's different. No, Mace Windu changed it or some yeah, I don't care. Schii Cho. It's the original lightsaber form. It was invented back when lightsabers were first existing. Blasters hadn't been invented yet, so the idea of deflecting projectiles wasn't really a thing at the time. They didn't worry about that. It was mostly just for the whole saber sword fighting thing. So, Schii Cho as a tree is really good at dealing with melee attacks and attacking and defending via melee, but basically nothing in the way of range. So, first of all, parry. That's the big lightsaber talent. Its parry game is exactly as good as the Sorsu Defender from the Guardian career, which Sorsu is the big all-around defensive saber form. So they're as good with parry as that form is. Though, like Sorsu Defender, they're not as good as Makashi Duelist or Makashi Duelist. No matter which way I say it, it's always the wrong way. Makashi Duelist. Slightly less good in terms of parrying with the Makashi Duelist. And parry allows you to, with the cost, reduce incoming damage with your lightsaber. Or any melee weapon, right? It can be when hit by a melee attack. Do the thing. You also get melee too, by the way. It's a career skill, so if you just want to melee people, you can totally do that. They can even double up on it. That's nice. So if you don't like lightsabers, or if you don't have one yet, that'll be helpful. Anyway, defense. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about defense. So basic parry and the improved parry. We of course also have the obligatory toughened and grit to help with wound and strain threshold respectively. Not a lot really. You do get a bit more help though dealing with critical injuries, and there's one talent, I know I've covered it multiple times, I never really realized this until now, but it's a talent where you may reduce incoming critical injuries, and emphasis on the may. You may, because you might not want to, because some critical injuries are actually worse than the ones above it. You know, sometimes it depends on your situation. If you have a critical injury that harms your agility or brawn or cunning or intellect or whatever, and you don't really use those characteristics, well then it's not a big deal for you. But also, more importantly, there is one critical injury in this game which is freaking ridiculous and is not in the place where it should be. Overpowered is what it's called, where basically you overpower your opponent, inflicting this critical injury, and then you get to attack again. Or is it hit again? No, I think it's attack again, which is insane. You just get to attack again. Can you do it again? Can you just keep doing it? That's friggin' ridiculous. So you may not want to reduce it, because you may in fact reduce it down to being overpowered, which is really bad. I would check the chart. It may be worse. Just make sure. Anyway, and the final defensive talent we have just helps him with his actual defensive rating under certain circumstances. But that's it. Pretty basic stuff. The really fun, interesting stuff happens with the offensive side of the tree. See, the thing with Schii Cho is, yes, it sucks at dealing with ranged combat. There really is no ranged defense or dealing with ranged combatants in any way. But it's really good at taking on multiple opponents. In a way, it's kind of the Makashi Duelist. It's kind of the Makashi Duelist, only instead of focusing on one opponent, it focuses on multiple opponents. In fact, there's one talent which is almost a straight-up inverse of a talent they have, where if you're facing multiple opponents, you get a little improvement to your checks, although it is slightly different. It's not a direct mirror inverse of that talent, which is weird. It's slightly better, which is good, I guess. Of course, they're both pretty early in the tree. You could just get both trees and combine the two. Why not? But really, aside from that and another talent, that's the only talents that really deal with the whole attacking multiple, or dealing with, not just attacking, but dealing with multiple opponents. So we have that one, and Sarlacc Sweep, a brand new talent. The only tree to have it, or at least as far as this book is concerned, Sarlacc Sweep is basically auto-fire, but for lightsaber. And auto-fire is already kind of broken, potentially. This is just ridiculous with a lightsaber. Although, I should point out, don't get any ideas like I did, because the way it's worded, you can't combine this with lightsaber throw. First instinct, that's what you want to do, right? Oh, auto-fire with lightsaber? Okay. No, it doesn't allow you to do that. So, yeah. But still, auto-fire with lightsaber. What more do you need? Oh, there it is. I knew there was another dealing with critical injuries talent. Okay, so, yeah, I totally forgot it. Center of Being. With this talent, enemies have a harder time inflicting critical injuries against you, which is great. So, less likely to take them in. And with the other talent, if you do take them in, they're going to be less severe. All right, back to the offense. What else do we got? Quick draw, pretty basic, makes sense. That's all they do is they draw their weapon and solve problems with it. So of course they're very good at taking it out and all the benefits of quick draw. More likely to move or aim on your first turn, and that could potentially help you with your attack check, getting into the right position or aiming. That will improve the dice pool in your favor, and you're not wasting a maneuver to draw your weapon, so you still have 2 maneuvers if you strain yourself to aim and move, or aim twice, or whatever the situation calls for. Or guard stance. I never talk about guard stance. Potentially guard stance could be really helpful, especially because guard stance really is most helpful when you're taking on multiple opponents. You don't really get as much out of it because it's kind of bad for you, but also good for you. And the good for you scales upward the more opponents you're facing, so it meshes well with this talent tree. Less so if you're only facing one opponent. They also get a talent that gives a ton of help with their lightsaber checks or melee checks, but you can't use it that often. It's got a pretty high cost. And to represent their physical conditioning, because they're very active, kind of like a Taru striker. We have a talent where you can self-heal some strain. Kind of works well with quick draw. Anything that can help you do more maneuvers and whatnot more often. Or to parry more often. Parry costs strain, so yeah, anything that helps with that. It's really not that big of a deal. It's not going to help you a whole lot. You're going to probably want to scour multiple ranks of it, if you can. I wouldn't go out of my way to do that. There's probably better trees, but if a tree that works well for you as a supplement also happens to have that talent, I would do it, try to maximize it. And also because they're in shape, they have the condition talent, which gives you some help with checks you don't normally get help with, some physical-based checks, and falling damage, which, I think condition, the only thing that really helps you with falling damage. Pretty rare, but also potentially pretty useful. You know, that's something I don't threaten my player enough with, falling to their death. Yeah. Let's see you parry that, you f***. So, how should you play your Shii Cho Knight from the warrior career? Obviously brawn, go with 4, and anything else you want, really. I like a 3 in will on the side to help you with strain. You know, strain yourself as much as possible for those extra maneuvers and all that good stuff. The thing about force using trees, and this one especially, is that when you're in a situation like this, where it only really demands of you to focus on one characteristic, it's kind of a waste of that situation, because in that situation you think, oh cool, put a 4 in that characteristic and I have all these points to put wherever I want, and then you put them wherever you want based off of the 1 or 2 skills that, maybe there's like 1 or 2 talents that affects 1 or 2 skills, so maybe that can influence your choice. Mostly though, you use it to enforce the career skills that you get, and be good, or decent rather, in that role on the side. But there really isn't a whole lot here, to be honest. Maybe cunning? A decent presence wouldn't be bad for initiative. You know, via cool, to get that as a career skill. Although, you probably want a strong will. That's a high recommendation. So that will help you with vigilance, so whatever. Yeah, it seems like kind of a waste to have a very focused build. In a force user, they get less skills. So that kind of sucks. But, yeah, it's a pretty basic melee tree. Good against multiple opponents. You don't really do a lot with it, unlike Aggressor, which I'm liking more and more the more I think about it. Not a big combat person in general, but at least there's a couple different things you can do. Some more options. This, you stab people. That's about it. You stab people, you parry, you stab, you parry. You stab multiple people, you parry. But anyway, if you want a pretty simple, straightforward damage dealer who specializes in either melee or lightsaber, and also has the Force, you know, maybe you're some great vibro axe duelist or something who has the Force but doesn't know that he has the Force. I don't know why I always like characters like that. Probably because they eventually get recruited, and I always love the scene in the movie where they go around recruiting all the diverse group of people that go on an adventure. I'm a sucker for that. If you want to do that thing, the thing I just said just now, Shii Cho Knight from the warrior career might be the tree